Hello everybody and welcome to reaDIYsteaDIY. Today we are going to take a look at the DWE7485 compact job site table saw from DeWalt, the tiny saw with the massive name. So the DWE7485 is a 5800 RPM saw that draws 15 amps. It has an often discussed 8 1/4 inch blade which will cut at 90 degrees at 2 9/16 inch, and it will cut 1 3/4 inches deep at 45 degrees. To the right of the blade there's a 24.5 inch rip capacity. Says on the box, the saw comes with a limited 3-year warranty, a 1-year free service warranty, and a 90-day money-back guarantee from DeWalt. I have never tried to make a warranty claim with DeWalt. I have phoned them once or twice. They're somewhat less than helpful, but if you've ever made a warranty claim with DeWalt, I want to hear about it. Tell me what it was like. So once you open the box, you'll see the table saw itself. You'll see the blade guard assembly wrapped separately. You'll see the miter gauge, and you'll see the instructions, which are wrapped in plastic. You should read those. There are a couple of accessories attached to the body of the saw that are a little harder to find. The blade is installed, the riving knife and throat plate are also installed. The anti-kickback assembly, the rip fence, the push stick, and the wrenches for tightening the arbor are all attached to the body of the saw. You'll find those by looking in the instruction manual. It has a pretty good description of how to find those. So according to the instruction manual, the first thing you want to do is unlock and remove the throat plate, reach around, grab those wrenches that are used to tighten the arbor, and make sure that the blade is installed correctly. Because if it's not, it could be some trouble. My saw came with the riving knife installed and the blade guard assembly not installed. I wanted to use the blade guard assembly, so I had to remove the riving knife. First step to do that, according to the instructions, reach down, unscrew the knob. The knob pops out, but it's retained, so you can't lose it in the body of the saw. That's a good feature. I pulled the riving knife out and put the blade guard back in, and I was good to go. This is the North American version of the saw. It has a 2-prong plug, no grounding pin. I was a little surprised to see that on a 15 amp tool, but the reason they can do that is because the tool is double insulated like a lot of power tools. So if you look at this little logo here, there's a square within a square, which means this is a double insulated tool. All of the electrical components inside have an insulator around them. The second layer of insulation is the plastic body of the saw. I bring this up because if you are throwing this very light and very portable saw in and out of the back of your truck, or pulling it up and out of your basement all the time, should you crack the housing, you've lost one layer of insulation. Not a bad thing to be a little cautious about. So once I confirmed that the arbor was tight and the blade was properly installed and the blade guard assembly was installed, I reached around to the left side of the saw, released the clasps that hold the rip fence on upside down, and attach the rip fence over on the right side of the saw where it goes. There are 2 little black set screws which indicate the 2 positions on the right side where the rip fence can attach. There are 2 corresponding measurement gauges on the rip fence adjuster. It's easy to get confused there if you're not conscious of which of the 2 positions you've attached the rip fence. I'm sure you've heard this before, but the rip fence on this saw is really great. The rack and pinion adjustment is very precise, it locks very well, it's a solid accessory. The anti-kickback assembly does not come attached to the blade guard assembly. It has a permanent place at the back of the saw. If you want to use it, you pull it out and attach it in the same way it detaches from the saw body. There's a little pin you push in, you click it, and it'll stay. The next step with any new saw is to make sure that the blade is properly set to 90 degrees. The way to adjust the tilt of the blade is to undo the lock and just shove it. It's not really very precise. Basically, I found that I had to shove it all the way, but I could reach 90 degrees exactly. Likewise with 45 degrees, I had to shove it all the way over to the other side, but I was able to get 45 degrees true. It's not as exact as it could be, but then the saw is pretty cheap. The miter gauge is made of metal, which is a good thing, but it doesn't fit properly into its channel, which is a bad thing. There's a fair bit of slop and variance in there. You're not going to get the most accurate mitered cuts with this miter gauge. So once I had all the accessories attached, but before I did my first test cut, I wanted to make sure that the saw was securely attached to the table. There are some holes in the body of the saw that are pretty easily seen, but there are some other holes that are somewhat hidden under the feet of the table saw. So if you flip the table saw up on its side, which is pretty easy to do, you'll see these holes in the bottom of the feet. One option would be to remove the feet completely, and that way the holes sit flush with whatever surface the saw is sitting on. I know a table saw can be dangerous, and I know a lot of people get injured with them every year. I wanted to know exactly how to use mine safely before I started operating it. So before I started using my saw, I made sure to have a conversation with Jason Barnes. He's a partner at Allaire Homes here in Canada. I'll include a link to that if you're interested. There's a link to the saw in the description below. So in the end, am I happy with my purchase? Well, absolutely. I think this thing is great. Is it everything to everybody? No way. If I was a contractor, I'd probably buy a much bigger table saw and figure out some way to port it around, but for my purposes, I need to cut wood straight, but only on occasion. So when I'm done with this saw, I need it to go away. Its portability is the key for me. Also, if you walk into a big box store and just compare it with other saws in its class, it just feels a little hardier. Is it as hardy as a 300-pound Laguna table saw? Absolutely not. But if you want a small saw that you can pull out on occasion as a DIY person or a homeowner, this saw is perfect. The DWE7485 compact job site table saw from DeWalt is a powerful tool with a lot of functionality and a really long name. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. I hope this helped you out. Please like and subscribe, but hey, even if you don't, leave a comment in the comment section below. Comments help me make the channel better, and that's what I want.